Hello, survivors of the apocalypse and 7 Days to Die fans. Welcome to Warlords of the Wasteland. I'm Desert Rat, and today I'm going to talk about something that gets discussed in the game forums every now and then, and that's underwater bases. So some people in the game forums are asking about water bases, building underwater, asking if it's possible and how it can be done. There are some YouTube videos out there that talk about it as well, and I figured I'd put this video out to kind of put out some pointers and help people out. If you're not interested in building underwater, then this video probably won't interest you, but if it's something that you've been thinking about, maybe this video will give you some ideas and help you out a little bit. So the first question we want to answer is, can I build underwater? And the answer is, of course. And 7 Days to Die has a very good building mechanic. It's a voxel-based open world game, and you can basically build anywhere on the map as long as you have structural support and you're not within a protected area like a trader's compound or within the bounds of another player's land claim block. So we answer that question. The next one we want to answer is, why an underwater base? Why would I build an underwater base? Well, there might be a lot of reasons. Okay, maybe you just like the challenge. Maybe the cool factor appeals to you. I know for myself, I think it's pretty cool to have an underwater base, dive down beneath the waves, open the door, go inside, and I'm breathing air and I'm completely dry. Another reason might be concealment. If you're playing on large servers with a lot of other players, or you're in player versus player servers, you want to conceal your base for safety. All right, if the enemy can't see your base, they can't find your base, then they can't attack it. All right, you might just want a hidden place to stash your loot. Okay, and maybe you want to live, work, and hang out there. For Aquaman and myself, that's our choice. We like to put down our bedrolls and our workstations and just make it a livable base. Now, if you're going to take that approach, you need to provide for defense, and I'll talk about that later in the video. And another reason you might want to build underwater is just because. All right, so you make the choice to build underwater. One of the first things you have to take into account is where you're going to build. So you have to find a water feature on the map that is large enough and deep enough to hold the structure that you want to build. All right, because of the way that we need to construct this base, the depth is crucial. I recommend a minimum of 8 blocks deep. That is 8 blocks from the lake bed to the surface of the water. I would say a minimum of 10 is even better, but basically the deeper you can go, the better you go, but definitely not less than 8 blocks. I prefer a 3-block high ceiling in all my bases, just because I find 2 blocks to be a little claustrophobic. Your preference might be different, but just keep in mind, if you have a higher ceiling, say higher than 3 blocks, then you need to be even deeper under the water because of the way the structure has to be built. All right, keep that in mind. Also keep in mind your footprint. We prefer generally a 10 by 10 or a 12 by 12 structure. Keep in mind the material that you're building with is going to dictate your horizontal support. So if you have a very large building, you might need to have support columns for your ceiling. All right, you don't want to get down there, build 70, 80, 90% of your structure, and then have the ceiling collapse on you. So keep all that in mind. All of the factors that you would consider when building on land, you need to take into account when you're building underwater. All right, now the other thing is breathing. All right, how are you going to build this underwater? If you're on a single player game, you want to go into God mode to speed things up, you can do that. Obviously, I used God mode to make this video demonstration. When Aquaman and I built our original underwater base in our regular game, we did not use God mode. We put points into Fortitude and Iron Gut, That increases your breath holding time. Then it's just a matter of diving down, placing some blocks, going up, getting a breath of air, going back down. All right, it can be a time-consuming process. If you're on a multiplayer server and you're not the server admin, that's the way you have to do it. You just have to deal with that and know that it is possible. It's just going to take you a little longer to get things built. All right, so, and then the choice of your construction materials is important. I recommend starting with concrete. All right, you can start with cobble, upgrade to concrete, and then as the game progresses and you're able to upgrade to steel, I would definitely do that. Keep in mind the hit points. If your building gets attacked by zombies and they take out a block or two, you're going to have a mess to clean up and it's not going to be fun. All right, so let's get to the good part. Now, you found an area where you want to build and it's large enough and deep enough. So what you're going to do is go to the bottom of the lake, river, ocean, wherever you're at, and pick out an area that's large enough to hold your structure. Find an area that's relatively level. Clear out any obstacles that are down there, and you can use blocks to level it out if you need to. Then check your depth. You see here I'm at 16 meters plus 16. I'm going to go up to the surface of the water, check my depth again, plus 31. That gives me 15 meters of depth, and that's plenty deep enough for the structure that I'm going to build. You can see that I've laid out the boundaries of my building here, and whenever I make a building on land or underwater, I like to lay down a foundation. I will dig 1 block deep and build a foundation underneath it to support everything. That's what I'm going to do here. Okay, now I have my foundation down, and the next step is to build the walls. When I'm building, I like to start with 4 corner columns. You might do it differently. It's the end result that matters. And I'm going to put up 4 block high columns here. As I mentioned before, I like my ceiling to be 3 blocks high. So I'm going 4 blocks up with my corner columns. That 4th block will be the ceiling. And then once the columns are up, start filling in the walls. Here I'm doing the front wall, and I'm going to make allowance for a doorway. If we're going to have an underwater base, we have to have a way to get in and out. So I'm leaving a 2-high doorway there. And then once I have that, we start filling in the rest of the walls. And now place your ceiling. All right, we have our structure built, and now it's time to move on to the next step. And this is where the magic happens. This is what's going to allow us to remove the water from our structure and turn this into a livable space. Now, I want to stress that you do not need to dig a hole or a cavern beneath your base to make this work. All right, the key to this is the roof of our structure. Now, we already have a 1-block roof. I'm going to build 3 additional block layers on top of the roof. All right, so I will have a total of 4 blocks for my roof. All right, and as I said, I like to build my corner posts first. So I'm going up 3 additional blocks, and then I'm going to completely fill in all 3 of those additional layers. Now our structure is complete, including the roof, and we have a room full of water that we need to get rid of. Before we do that, we need to make sure that the water can't come back. So we're going to do a little work on our doorway here. What we're going to do is choose a sheet shape from our building block menu. Pick the sheet, and then use your advanced rotation to spin that around so that it's on the bottom. We're going to place a sheet on the top and bottom of our doorway. Rotate it there, place it in the bottom. All right, and we're going to rotate it again, get it on the top, and place one on the top of the doorway there. And what that's going to do is help keep the water from coming back into our building. Now that that's done, we need to get the water out, and we're going to use our basic building blocks. And these are the standard OSB building blocks. We're going to place that down inside and fill the entire room, top to bottom, wall to wall with these blocks. Don't leave any holes, don't leave any gaps. Alright, I've completely filled my structure with building blocks, as you can see, and I can't place any in the doorway there because I've got my sheet top and bottom. So now that we've filled it up, the next step is to pick all of those blocks right back up. Alright, so go inside, start picking up all the blocks that you've just placed, and you'll notice as I'm picking them up, I'm staying dry. The water is not coming back. The magic is working. So go ahead and remove all of the blocks from inside your structure. Picking up the last few remaining blocks here inside my building, and you can see that it has stayed dry. The water has not returned, and that's what we want. Alright, I can go out the door. Boom, I'm underwater. Can't breathe here. We go back inside, and it's going to be dry. Now you notice here, because of the terrain, I think, got a little bit of a hold up here at the door, keeping me from going through smoothly. If you experience that problem, you can fix it by putting a sheet down right outside the door. This is going to be a temporary fix because eventually I'm going to put a door on there. I don't want to leave it wide open so anybody can wander in and out. But for a temporary fix, you can do that. It will allow you to move more freely. So, as I said, I do want to put a door on, and I'm going to pick one of the white interior house doors. You can use a vault door, steel door, whatever you want. I would use the strongest door that you have if you're expecting visitors. And in order to place the door, we're going to have to get rid of the sheet that we placed. Remember, I said that was temporary. That's holding the space that we want to put the door in. So place the door, rotate it the way that you want it, and boom, we have a door. And you'll find that the door serves the same purpose that the sheet did and allows us to move in and out freely without getting hung up there on that 1 pixel that might have been there. Alright, so we have our building, and it's kind of drab here. We can't look out or anything, so maybe I want to put some windows in so I can look outside, see what's happening. So I'm going to put in some windows, and what I'm going to do is mark out a space here. This will help me to visualize where I want to put my windows. And we have to be very careful when we're doing this, because in order to place windows, we're going to have to knock out blocks. And we have to do that a very specific way in order to keep the water from flowing back in. So placing these blocks like this helps me to visualize where I want to place things, and this is just to help me out. So now that I've got them placed inside, I'm going to go outside and do the same thing. All right, mark out an area that I want to put my windows. And to do this, we're going to use our old friend, the sheet. All right, the sheet is our friend in this build, and we're going to put a sheet on the outside of the building there where we want our windows to be. So take your advanced rotation, turn the sheet around to where it's flat against the wall, and place a sheet on the wall where you want your windows to be. And I'm going to do this on both sides of the building. Over here I want a 3 wide opening. So rotate it around, place the sheet there, and that's going to protect us from the water while we're putting in our windows. All right, so coming back inside, what we have to do is knock out the block where the window is going to be. So I'm going to punch out those blocks. And remember, we placed the sheets on the outside. That's what's keeping the water from coming in, those sheets. So be very careful not to knock out the sheets at the same time. And then what we're going to do is go back to the sheet. Remember, that's our friend. The sheet is our friend. And we're going to place a sheet at the bottom of the window frame. All right. Remember when we placed the door, we had a sheet top and bottom. Well, the window's only one block high, so we only need one sheet. And you can place them either top or bottom. In this case, I'm going to place them on the bottom of my window cutouts. And those sheets will keep the water from coming back in. All right, so now that the sheets are in place, all right, bottom of the windows, I want to go ahead and mark those. So I'll grab myself a paintbrush here. I'm going to use the Dev paintbrush and pick a color. I'm going to use red just because it's high visibility. And I'm going to paint the sheets that I placed just to give us a visual indication of where they're at. Doorway, remember, top and bottom, mark those. And my windows, the bottom of my window frames, that's where all of the sheets are that are helping to keep the water out of this building. All right. Now that that's done, I can safely go outside and remove the sheets that I placed on the outside of the building. All right. Remember, those sheets were in place to keep the water out while we did our work inside. Now we no longer need them, so we can knock those sheets out. Boom, there's the opening. I don't need these anymore. I'm going to pick those up. And now I have a big hole in my wall, but I go inside and it's dry, no water. Same thing on the other side. Oops, put that back. I don't want to make a mistake and punch out the wrong block. That'd make a mess. Again, knock out the protective sheets, pick those up, don't need them. Now we have all these holes in our building, but because of the sheets, there is no water. Water has not come inside the building. That's what we want. All right. Now we can place, in this case, I'm going to put, I think, bars on one side and steel hatches on the other. Grab me some steel vault hatches here. And go outside around this side. And on the big window, I'm going to place bars on the outside. Grab my building blocks. In the shape menu, find the bars. Advanced rotation, and these always seem to be the last place you want them to be. I always have to rotate forever to find what I want. And then once you get the right orientation, place them over the windows there. All right. Same thing on the other side. I'm going to use the steel vault hatches on this side. Advanced rotation, turn them around to get them in the orientation I want. Boom. I'm going to put my hinges on the bottom in this case and place the hatches 1, 2, and 3. All right. And now going back inside, I'm going to close my door and boom. Got a barred window there I can look out. Can open my gun ports, look out, see what's happening, see what's approaching, and you can even fight from this position, as I will demonstrate. Alright, a base isn't really practical if you can't defend it. So let's say you're sitting in the base one day, look out the window, and you see a herd of zombies coming your way. Alright, so run inside here, close the door, and look at that. I can engage targets even though a firearm will not work underwater. Since we're dry inside here, we can engage targets that are out there under the water, and as you can see, I'm engaging them quite effectively. Alright, so we now have a usable and effective underwater base that we can defend. And just to let you know, SMG turrets will work underwater, as I'll demonstrate in an upcoming video. Alright, we now have a usable and practical underwater base. I want to point out one last time the key features to this build. The sheet shape in your window cutouts, top or bottom, and top and bottom in your doorway, and also the 4-block thick roof. Those are the key elements of the build. You can expand it if you want. Just keep in mind you've got to provide enough structural support to support the build that you're making. Well, that's it, survivors. Thanks for joining Warlords of the Wasteland. We hope to see you again soon.